Would you like to do the introduction?
Do we really need any introduction at this point?
We don't, but it's been a minute since we've been with the people.
But you know what? You arrive the day you stop having to introduce yourself. And
All
I'm
right.
done introducing myself. It's almost 2025, and I'm not going to introduce myself to anybody anymore.
Okay, well, I will. Everybody, this is Christy. No. Sorry, we have been gone a minute.
We have been.
You, Christy, the non-introduction person, has been sicker than shit.
It usually happens about once a year in some aspect. I mean, if it's not a kidney stone, if it's not the flu or pneumonia or like my heart stopping or staph or strokes.
Or pneumonia, did you say
pneumonia. But I swear to you, 98.6% of the rest of the time.
And what's that thing that you've had 4 times that most people don't
Meningitis.
get? Oh, yeah, meningitis.
Yeah.
She hasn't had that, but she does have to have surgery.
I have to go ahead and announce that we won't be filming for what, a month?
Okay, we know, but yes. Everything is changing.
It's 2025. It's changing.
Everything is changing. This is the year-end review, year-end wrap-up, and absolutely catastrophic launch into 2025.
Yes.
So if you're not getting with the changing times, you are being left in the dust, friends. So this one, yes, she's getting her tonsils, her very adult tonsils.
I don't know, which they say for an adult, it is like it is in the top 4 things: kidney stones, rotator cuff, tonsils, and I forgot what the other one was. But it is one of the most...
Sure, like a torn groin or something.
Appendicitis or something. But we went to go see, I constantly have, strep throat, something like that. And I've been saying for years, or every time I'd go see an ENT, they'd say, I can't believe you still have your tonsils. Of course, I've kind of done a poll this week. Do you still have your tonsils? Do you have your tonsils? And pretty much everybody still has their tonsils.
Tonsil free. Tonsil free.
Oh, you are. So.
And adenoids. Yep, gone.
So we go to Houston to see my fellow Polish brother in ancestry, Dr. Powicki. And he's like, yeah, I usually don't operate on 50-year-old women.
Actually, he said, I don't
operate on 50-year-old women. And I was like, okay, so we should get out of here. And he looks again. And I'd had some problems recently. This ear always seems to like, whatever that is, that tube that runs through there. And that's the extent of my medical.
Eucration tube?
Unation, or I don't know. Sounds very technical. And it seems like, it feels like a straw that it just fills up. That fluid or something, and then of course the ear starts hurting, and tinnitus, everything else comes with it. So he looks again, he said, yeah, I just don't do it. But then somewhere there was a shift in about 90 seconds. And he's like, yeah, they need to come out.
After he looked like closely with the light, he was like, you have a lot of inflammation back here.
Right. And I'm like, right now I'm having a good day. And he's like, if this is a good day, they really need to come out. The way he looked at me and he said, I just can't believe. Now, keep in mind, I haven't been to a pediatrician in 30-something years. And he said, although I went to my pediatrician until I was 18. And he said, I just can't believe your pediatrician never mentioned to your mom you needed to have these out. Of course, if I'd had a watch. And I kind of looked down and I went, that pretty much sums that 40 years worth of therapy right there. Like, what the hell? And he says, yeah, they need to come out, but you won't be able to speak for 3 weeks. Where's my whiteboard from when I had a stroke? And you can't have fluids above this temperature. They told me this today when they called. You can't have this, you can't have that.
And then he looks at you and he said, and what's your plan? And we were like,
plan? I said, is this going to ruin my chance to get a Grammy?
And he goes, well, like, if you just start profusely bleeding from your throat. And we were like, wait a second, you're the doctor. And he says, well, yeah, he says, in like 1% of the cases, and it's not right after surgery. It's like day 7 to 10.
It's 1 in 25,000, he said.
Yeah, you'll just start profusely bleeding out of your throat, and it won't stop. So what's your plan?
I said, well,
Like, what kind of a test is this?
yeah, because I said, do I need to spend the night? Are you going to keep me in the hospital, or do I need to spend the night in Houston one night? And he goes, no, we never have problems the first night because everything's numbed up. And it's only like a 30-minute procedure. I can't even believe they had to pull you under. And he said, it's usually day 7 to 10 is where if we're going to have issues, it's going to be then. I'm like, well, I still feel it then? He's like, oh, yeah. You're going to be cussing me.
So this is your podcast update to let y'all know that we have not gone anywhere, but we did have to stick a serious pin in things while this one recovered from whatever post-nasal drip situation has been keeping her under the weather. The holidays were just insane. Not because we did anything.
No, not because we put up a tree, a single ornament, no lights.
No, everybody would probably think that we're the Scrooges.
Yeah,
but
we're the Bah Humbug.
we have literally been working on K9s. If there were
Nonstop.
25 hours in a day, I would say we've been working on K9s 25 hours a day. And so much exciting stuff happening with K9s.
Right.
And if you're watching this show and you're like,
Wondering, are they sitting in their closet?
right, are they?
They moved to the garage.
Did Alyssa go back in the closet? No, I did not. Here we are sitting amongst some of our designer duds and fabulousness, because this one, in all of her glory, has, very fondly...
Okay, so but I'm addicted to YouTube.
Well, I was getting there.
Okay. So I watch YouTube every single day. And I feel if I don't learn something, at least how to say even bring me the bill in another language. If I don't learn one thing once a day,
I'm going to make a reference.
I feel like I'm depriving my brain of something.
Right. I'm going to make a reference to something I told you the other day, but I don't think you got it because you haven't seen it. But hopefully if somebody listens to this, they'll understand what I'm saying. If anybody remembers the movie Short Circuit from the 80s, it is about a robot. And that robot, in order to survive, he has to consume massive amounts of data. He has to read books, he has to watch TV, and everything just goes into this memory vault. And without it, he basically shrivels up and becomes non-existent. That is Christy in 2025.
I wake up first thing in the morning and I have to read at least 4 or 5 newspapers. And then if one story doesn't match another story, I start to lose my mind. And then I can easily go down a rabbit hole. I need an extra hour or so in the morning for my rabbit hole.
I really would like you to get your IQ tested on a genius level. Not just regular IQ test, but some advanced IQ test.
Well, last time we did that, I was writing on a whiteboard and I was trying to, Jose
No,
had
that's
an
the last
apple.
time you had a stroke. Whatever. Your brain's fine. Your brain's fixed. You're healed. Hallelujah. Amen. That's done in the past. You're not sick anymore. But you are brilliant, and I want to figure out how to best channel that brilliance. But one of the ways that she has best channeled that brilliance is Christy likes to, kind of like a chef in the kitchen that throws pasta on the wall to see what sticks. I could be walking through the room and she'll randomly throw out an idea oh, we need to. And God love her for the we
Which
need
means?
tos. Because Shanna will back me up on this. I know Shanna will back me up on this. And probably Sinclair too. The we need to is, I want you to do this. So about 4 weeks ago, while she was in her sickness and honed in on her
My ear infection.
yeah, her iPad, she was really heavy in the Gary V thing. Gary V.
Gary V. I had this massive crush on Gary V.
Crush, really? We're gonna go there? Okay.
The brain, I mean,
Yeah,
his brain just works.
But his brain works like you. And most people probably think, what is he on? No, that's just probably him.
Yeah.
And that's very much like you.
He's very unfiltered. I love that
And
about
we're
him.
at the point when we're not around, we put Gary V on for the dogs because we feel like it's going to increase their intelligence level.
Right. It doesn't work.
Well, so about 4 weeks ago, Christy says, hey, Gary V says,
Yeah.
we need
My
to.
tombstone is officially going to say Gary V says, and then all the information.
And tell people, in case they're listening, they don't know who Gary V is.
Okay, nobody watching us would dare admit they don't know who Gary V is.
I bet there's plenty.
Anyways.
Anyways,
Shit.
carry on.
He doesn't have to introduce himself anymore either. Gary Vaynerchuk. Is that how you say his name?
I don't know.
Okay. Well, he is Russian, and he moved to this country, I'm going to say maybe 35 or so years ago, and ended up in New Jersey. And his family has a famous, what we would call Specs.
Grocery store?
Yes, but a wine store. and it's, I don't know the name of the wine place, but it's like the Buc-ee's of wine places.
Okay.
And he was working there just like the family business, you know, putting stuff up on shelves. And he started taking over the marketing for his dad's wine store. And I just remember they were doing, you know, enough to be in business to millions of dollars every year. And so he's got something like 100 different marketing companies, from speaking agencies to book things to, he's on a speaking circuit. I think he gets something like 300,000 for a speech.
Wow.
And he's written multiple books.
And his rise to this place in his life has been over what, the last 6, 7, 8, 10 years? How long?
Yeah, I would say maybe closer to 15, but a solid decade.
And so he will get on YouTube and just do 12 and 15-hour live streams.
Lives straight, just talking like we are now, but just about marketing, and he's interviewing people, and his brain just works. I
Get to the point quicker. That's what his big thing is. Like, you know, why are you wasting people's time? People don't have attention spans.
So in his calendar every day, it's like where some people say, okay, I'm going to give you 1 to 2 o'clock so we can talk about this. Whatever. He gives everybody 15 minutes. He said, if you can't tell me in 15 minutes,
I don't want to know.
I don't want to know. I don't care.
I like Gary Vee's attitude.
Yes.
Well, Gary Vee's latest recommendation for everybody, I think, and I've been really like trying to hone in on the mastermind that kind of crafted this whole thing because I'm obsessed with it. Gary Vee said, everything's shifting. Everything that we know about social media is taking on a whole new wave. And
everything from social media to marketing to
e-commerce.
Now, I have a quote somewhere, and I was digging for it the other day, and I think I was quoted in Wired magazine, and it was about 98 or 99, and I said, e-commerce is going to be where we're going. So obviously, there's one Gary Vee non-fan in the house. Okay. So I remember the reporter, I think it was for either for Net or for Wired magazine, and they said no one will ever give out their credit card information on the internet. And I said, you'll be able to buy everything, even cats. So Gary Vee says, I'm telling you, everything, and we've noticed in the past year, I'm not a big TikToker. I can go on and watch other people's stuff, and we do post, and K9s posts, but I can go a couple of days and never open it up.
Right, me too.
We would see these people selling things on TikTok, and all of a sudden you see these people interviewed. I made, $500,000 in 6 months selling glow-in-the-dark hair ties. I mean, I don't know. People have all these crazy things. And I'm like, is that really happening? Is that really taking off? And how are they accidentally, again, like throwing pasta at the wall, how do they know the algorithms and what to sell?
Well, this goes so much deeper than just get online and do e-commerce. This is like a multifaceted dilemma that we're in the midst of, right? So for everybody who loves a one-click Amazon Prime shop, I'm not going to name names, but if you know, you know. But because I had a good talk with my friend Dennis today, who lives in Chicago, and, he had a great point, and it's like, when you think about some of the best music that's ever been created, or some of the best movies, there's probably not a lot of things that you can say have come out of the last probably 15 years.
True.
They're all things that we remember from the 80s, from the 90s, even before that, like classic movies. But where's the investment of time and energy into crafting something that's pure?
When was the last time we had a Forrest Gump movie?
Right. But I say that to say that, we've all become so quick access. Like, let's make it happen. Everything's happening faster. Everything's happening. Like, you can write a book now with ChatGPT in probably 30 minutes, right? But the storytelling of yesteryear, where you would sit down and actually write out an entire book, and it all came from your brain and your fingers, and, I think the way that that's shifted has kind of left people feeling a little hollow And
Right.
even though we're not all out here saying like, I'm sad or I'm miserable or I'm unfulfilled, there's a sense that people are feeling that. And so Gary Vee's discussion about e-commerce, you and I have looked at TikTok shops and we thought, okay, let's get on TikTok shops. But TikTok is one of those things, like there's always this question looming in the air of like, is TikTok going to get banned? Is it going to
Right.
go away?
And it's kind of, I hate to say this, it's kind of gimmicky.
It is gimmicky, but it's also saturated. Like there's so many people now. There's so many
It's
people.
a solid infomercial now.
Right. So many people doing it, but you go on and you're like, what am I actually getting from this? Am I stimulating my brain with content that matters? Am I buying stuff of quality? Am I doing anything like this that is bringing value to my life?
Right.
And at the end of the day on TikTok, I just couldn't find the win.
Right.
Now, 4 weeks ago when you say, okay, we got to do this Whatnot, I finally sat down and I'm like, okay, Whatnot is relatively new. There's
Like
not
3
a lot
years
of
old.
not a lot of people doing it. And I joined a Facebook group, reselling or Whatnot for resellers. Well, I've been a reseller since I've been an adult. And I say that to say, like, I always can find a great deal on a luxury product or a great pair of shoes or a designer bag. And I usually know what it's worth in the resale market and also what I'm willing to pay for it and how long I should hold it or sit on it before I let it go. I say that to say that all of those reseller platforms, Mercari, Poshmark, eBay, they've been around, eBay's obviously probably the longest, but if you're somebody that's been a social media creator on like Instagram and Facebook, you've also noticed how those algorithms have changed. And if you're not in that top like 8 to 5%, you're not performing anymore. You used to be able to post stuff on eBay. I used to be able to make a second living on eBay. I still post stuff. It will take months for products to sell. And if not, I have to chip in all this extra money to advertising fees. The second part of reselling that you and I are both very familiar with is consignment stores. But the issue with consignment stores is you're relying on people to go into a brick and mortar, which they're not doing anymore. You're relying on another person to house, protect, and sell your goods. And then that person, you're paying anywhere between 25 to 35%.
Or more.
Right. And when and then you're also relying on their bookkeeping skills. Are they doing an efficient job? How long is stuff staying in their market? Is somebody else's stuff sitting in front of yours and yours isn't going to move? I say that to say, Whatnot is literally going to change our lives. It's already changed our lives to a degree that I wasn't prepared for. And so basically the breakdown of how you do it, if you're interested, is there's all these people on there. It could be, somebody in their garage. It could be somebody in a warehouse. A lot of the people on there, I think, are people who are sourcing pallets from liquidation companies.
A lot of them seems to be, there's a whole different section of different volume where it goes off. Sports trading, cards, sports memorabilia, tennis shoes like Air Jordans, these Pokemon cards.
Anything in the world you could want. Your
Beanie Babies.
You'll find it. Collectibles.
Collectibles.
Vintage jewelry. Now, the thing about it that's fascinating to me is there's not really yet a huge market of high-end luxury. Now, there's high-end luxury handbags, and there are people who are on there selling it right and left, and they're sourcing these bags. They're getting them from like auction houses out of Japan, and I can't give away sources because I think that's a big taboo no-no, is like if you find a source, you hold that to your grave, because getting a good cost of goods is a really hard task to procure. But we, the two of us, are sitting on literally thousands of pieces of luxury goods, couture, handbags, vintage. I mean, the list goes on and on. We've hosted 3 shows so far on Whatnot. Our first show was 2 hours, our second show was 2 hours, and our third show was right at almost 5 hours. You can live stream your shows onto YouTube. So now that our podcast is officially monetized via YouTube, we can live stream our thread right to YouTube and drive traffic from YouTube back onto Whatnot. In 3 shows, we have sold 130 items and we have brought in $4,000. And so that to me is just like
sitting around talking.
Yeah, just sitting around talking and doing a fashion show, like showing people, how much luxury pieces like this, what they cost at the store, what you can buy them for on the resale market. Most of these things are new with tag. And it's this community of people that it's incredibly supportive. And,
Everyone's very kind and gracious. The way it used to be on the internet when I started.
but it's kind of like marrying a chat room to QVC
Right.
to eBay in a live platform. And I was like, if you're telling me I could do this every single day of my life as a day job, you just made my life. And so we've watched a few of the people who are on there, and they'll like open up a cardboard box and, okay, this piece, you don't even know what it looks like before they start running it for $1. And then you don't honestly even know what you're really getting by the time you buy
so
it.
explain, you have the choice of, you can do dollar sales. So you started at $1, and then in like 15 seconds, everybody's bidding. And so it can run up to a couple $100 in a short time. Or you can put it out there in your bin for sale, kind of like an eBay store.
Right, where people can make an offer.
They can make an offer. So you might say, okay, these, and you give a little story behind it. You know, I bought these in Paris and thought I was going to wear them to so-and-so's wedding and didn't. And they're brand new, and I'm just not going to wear them, so I want somebody else to appreciate them, whatever your story is. And then, you know, I paid $1,500 for them, but I have to start it at $300.
Right.
So everything doesn't have to be $1.
No, not everything has to be $1. It's very user friendly. I'd say probably by the time we did the second show, I had most of it figured out. Just for reference, it took us 9 months of doing 2 YouTube shows, 2 podcast shows, to gain almost 1,000 followers on YouTube. We've done 3 shows on Whatnot within the last 2 weeks, and we're almost to 1,000 followers. Like, that's just...
We're right at 1,000 followers, but we've had over close to 7,000 views.
Right. And I think at the end of the day, the big deal is we are all inundated with stuff. Every single person.
Stuff and data and electronics and things and just everything.
But rather than contribute to this world where we're constantly procuring new stuff, I implore anybody, if you are even Erica, my friend who does donuts, you can go on and you can do baked goods and you can ship those. I mean, literally anything that you want to sell. There was somebody who had like a kind of like a gothic grunge store, and she was selling, lingerie in her show. I mean, people selling sports memorabilia, people selling, vintage jewelry pieces. But one of the most interesting aspects to this whole thing that we've really talked a lot about, and I'm super excited about, is how we're going to be able to kind of pivot and tie all of this in to K9s.org.
Yes.
So that's also something that's kind of new in the launch. Is most people who know K9s4Cops, K9s4Cops is taking on a whole new rebranding and going to be coming out as K9s.org. Because as JP, our very dear friend and fundraising consultant, has told us, we shouldn't limit ourselves.
Right. So we had K9s4Cops, sneeze, K9s4kids, and K9s4care. So all 3 legs will now be under the umbrella. They're still all there, but they'll be under the tutelage of K9s.org.
Right. And he's also somebody who's like, look, people need to consider the broad picture of K9s could be literally implemented anywhere. They could be implemented in a bank, in an insurance company, in, a dance club. For him who consulted with the Pulse nightclub, he said if they had a K9 outside working security that night, maybe 49 people would not have lost their lives. And he was like, and I never want anybody to see K9s for blah, 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 and think that they're not an inclusive part of what that could be used for. So K9s.org in 2025 is taking all new legs, all new flight.
Whole new website, K9s.org.
K9s.org. We're going to be all over the country hosting donor salons. We're going to be in South Florida. We're going to be in New York, hopefully Southern California, maybe Chicago. I didn't tell you about that today, but maybe Chicago. But a lot of exciting things. So I say all that to marry with Whatnot. In my brain, that obviously usually comes up with his best ideas when I'm in the shower. I feel like in 2025, when we're all looking at that bottom dollar when we go to the grocery store and a week's worth of groceries is costing I know over $350 for most people, which used to be able to be $100. People are looking at their wallets. People are thinking about their money, and they're looking at where their spending is going. And honestly, since COVID, I don't think nonprofits have been able to generate a financial revenue stream like we were able to before. And K9s.org has been one of those foundations that have suffered incredibly because of the pandemic.
We've had a lot of friends that have had to shut their doors.
Right. A lot of foundations have not made it. And we're more convinced now than ever that it is so desperately needed.
Right.
So one of the things that I feel like is an easy win is Christy and I both know women who have hoarded gobs of luxury goods. They're sitting in the closet. They don't fit anymore. You know, they wore them in too many places and they were photographed.
Or they never wore them at all.
Or they never wore them at all.
They bought them on a whim.
If you're somebody who is one of the people that we're talking about and you're sitting there looking at stacks of clothing that you'll never use, or handbags or shoes or whatever, reach out to us. Reach out to me, ab@k9s.org. You can reach out to us at estrogen@lissenkristi.com. You can reach out to me however you can find us. Send a comment in the thread. What I want to do, and I came up with this idea about 5 years ago when I was going to do Southern Charm in Louisville, is I want to create an avenue for you to donate your high-end luxury products to a nonprofit, get a tax write-off for the value of those products. We turn around and take those products and sell them on Whatnot Live. And then not only does it benefit K9s.org, but you get a tax write-off for the value of your goods versus taking them and dropping it off at it like a Goodwill, because it just doesn't make sense to me.
It doesn't.
I have asked probably 100 women, easily, probably more than that, what do you do with your high-end luxury pieces when you don't want them anymore? And they basically hoard them either until they die, they give them to a girlfriend, or they just allow someone else to take care of it and hope that it
and then most of the times they think, oh, I'm going to get a check. And you don't.
And foolish of all of it is a lot of people send it to the Real Real. I'm here to tell you that the Real
Real is a scam.
Is a scam. I retract. Not a scam, but what they end up selling your pieces for, and then you get a check for. I'm gonna promise you, you're gonna maybe get back 10% of the value of what you paid on the Real Real. But if you're able to cultivate this donation aspect of it, send it in, let it be auctioned, get closer to the higher value of what it's actually worth, and get that tax write-off for what you should be receiving.
Right, the full amount.
I think it's a win-win. So give me your comments, give me your thoughts, give me your opinions, because I've had about 6 women say, I am down for that every single day. That makes sense. I'm not having to give you cash, and I'd be happy to come on and shop other people's luxury products.
Because, I started going through my things, and they were like, where do you procure your things? Well, it's just been sitting on them.
Right.
And, you have every intention of, okay, when I go to that wedding or I take that trip, but you can't take everything you've bought.
No.
And then you say, you know what, I was going to have that taken up, or I've either lost weight or I've gained weight, and it just doesn't work anymore. Let it go.
Well, and life changes. Like, look, I used to have to dress up every day to go work in the jewelry store, so I bought a lot of stuff then. You used to live a very different life, going to galas and, so, who knows what you went to, all kinds of things where you had to look fancy. Now we're going in, we're meeting with police officers, we're meeting with nurses and doctors and hospital staff.
Yeah, I'm not wearing a ball gown to do that.
School teachers. And it's like, there's no rhyme or reason for either one of us to hang on to these pieces, and having money in the bank making interest, or, getting to actually watch somebody that you care about wear something.
And enjoy it.
And the other part about luxury items is, people will say, well, it's too expensive. When you really think about it, think about what you spend going to Target or Walmart or to some place where you're buying clothes that are $25 made in China. How many wears are you going to get out of that before it has a hole in it, or, you stain it?
Well, since you've brought Walmart into it.
Well, there you go.
Can we just talk about what Walmart's marketing department did?
The floor is yours.
Now, I am a collector of Hermes bags, so this kind of pisses me off a little bit.
It should.
But they went and duplicated the Birkin bag and calling it the Workin, which is a Walmart Birkin. Now, I have not seen one, only online, but basically it sells for $20 to $80 versus $20,000 to $200,000.
All I know is Buc-ee's would have a lawsuit faster.
Buc-ee's Bucky's would be, their intellectual property lawyers would be on the way to Bentonville, Arkansas right now with a fire starter blowing the place up. I just can't believe, and Hermes says we have no marketing department.
Right.
What we make is what we make. We've done this for close to 200 years. This is what we do, and we're not worried about what anybody else does. Now, obviously, the craftsmanship, the quality, the everything is not there. But I think for the regular person that says, I want to treat myself, or I want to just have a vibe or a look and sit with the cool kids for a day, or whatever that you think that is, this is an opportunity to do that. So if you get a bag like that and dress it up, and it gives you some zhuzh when you walk into the room, makes you feel better, go for it. Knock yourself out. But I just don't see how they get away with it, get a mass produce. But Sam Walton always said, sell to the masses, live with the classes.
Well, they've taken that motto and put it right to life with that.
Right. But I am blown away that the reinvention of this, and people aren't mad about it. And another thing they're not mad about is the lab processed, what are they, lab?
Yeah, that's another thing that's been on the topic of conversation, especially for me. Lab created diamonds.
Lab created diamonds, yep.
So, there's going to be people who are going to be haters, there's people who are going to be lovers. The thing about it is, and I firmly believe this, is if you look at the history of natural stones, things that, have been mined and whatever. You look
Bloodstones that come out of South Africa, yeah.
De Beers, all of that. At the end of the day, somebody has made a lot of money.
Right.
It's just like the drug trade. I'm not trying to compare De Beers to the cartel, but when things change hands...
But haven't they monetized that market for...
Yeah. But the thing about it is let's look at the class of people or the quantity of people who could truly afford to buy, let's say, a colorless...
defaultless.
Yeah, just a perfect diamond in a carat size that is quite substantial. It's not a lot of people, right? But as this world of social media has taken over, and influencers, and there's all of these people who are trying to live like the Joneses or trying to level up in what they are, people carrying Workins now thinking, hey, I am showing up looking the part. I think there's just as many people who want to have the opportunity to wear high luxury jewelry pieces. And now with the lab created diamonds, everybody's like, oh, they're terrible, or they won't retain their value.
I haven't seen one, but from what I've seen on the internet, they're beautiful.
Well, I think they're beautiful too. And
I'm not a big jewelry person.
I'm here to tell you, ask anybody who has spent an insane amount of money on a natural stone, they don't retain their value either. Now, if you get them at wholesale and then you try to resell them at wholesale, you'll probably get what you got out of it. But if you buy that piece of jewelry from a jewelry store and you pay 2 to 3 times higher than wholesale.
Oh, it's more than that.
And then you go and try and flip it, you're going to lose more than you're going to lose on a new car, right?
Right.
Time and time again. Now, lab created stones, I just think if you're going to go out and you want to wear a big flashy piece of jewelry, and let's say you lose it or it gets stolen, you're going to feel a lot less sick to your stomach for losing a $10,000 ring versus a $250,000.
And what people spend, just insure it.
Well, what people are spending, but again, this is back to the groceries. What can people afford? People are saying, I don't want a big wedding anymore. I want to elope because I want a house. I don't want, a fancy diamond ring, natural diamond ring anymore because I want to be able to put my kid in private school. People are having to make very significant, smart decisions.
Right.
But GIA just closed one of their labs because lab-created diamonds have taken off. And for people who say, well, you can tell them apart, they've had to create...
Now, how do they create them? Is there a company, like a version of De Beers, that does what the lab-created...
I can't answer you in 100% certainty, but I do know that basically they figured out what chemical composites go into a natural diamond. They've taken those same chemical deposits and figured out how to cultivate them within a lab and grow a stone. So, they're growing...
You water a piece of coal, I mean, what...
I'm not a chemist, a scientist. I don't know exactly. I'm not growing them myself. But at the end of the day, about 5 years ago, the market started to be infiltrated with milli, which is the tiny little, like side stone diamonds, like itty bitty ones. Well, like let's say you have a supplier come into your store and they're bringing you in a bag of 1,000 milli. Well, you're going to pay. Maybe you take out 10 and test them, and they all test natural. But maybe the next 30 of them, there's 5 or 6 lab created diamonds in there. Well, now you've just paid a lot more for a bag of stones because you thought they were all natural than the ones that were lab. Doesn't mean they look any different. So they had to invent a special tester to be able to tell.
Because even the real gemologists can't tell for the naked eye.
No, not from the naked eye. This is how I try and explain it to people who are curious. For a person that's worked in a jewelry store for, let's say, most of their life, or even 10 or 15 years, the number of stones that you're going to see coming in that are flawless and colorless in clarity and just a really magnificent cut, those stones are so rare and hard to come by on the natural hemisphere that when you see one of those, you're also surveying who brought it in, right? You're like, are they driving a Rolls Royce? Are they driving a Bentley? What's the package look like? Now, I'm sure that there's been an infiltration in these jewelry stores with people seeing these very large stones and the rest of the package might not fit the ring, okay?
Right.
We all know what I'm saying. And to look at that, I would guess that a jeweler's going to look at that and assume this is a lab-created diamond because they're so exquisite, they're so flawless, they're so almost perfect that it's hard to imagine that somebody could obtain something of that high quality without paying over $1 million.
I can't wait to see one in person.
Well, you will, because that's actually something that I've also taken to creating recently. Is I've started creating jewelry, custom jewelry for people who are interested, and I've sold my first 2 rings. I made a lab-created fancy yellow intense ring that if you bought that a natural diamond, you'd have spent over $200,000. And let's just say I was able to procure that, source it, create it, have it mounted and set and delivered for less than $10,000.
Wow.
Yeah.
And I saw it on the hand, and it was, just a picture of it, and it was exquisite.
Like I'm sure that I would get a lot of hate from the jewelry store that I worked in because they were very anti-lab diamonds, but the world...
So this has been around a while, the lab diamonds?
Yeah, I'd say it's kind of been on the fray of the cusp of things for at least 10 years, but it's really taken off in the last probably 3, grown new legs. And the way
Literally.
Yeah, the way it's infiltrated the market, and, it gives people accessibility to something that people used to just hope one day maybe I get to see a diamond like that live in person, and now they're being created. So, I don't know. It'll be interesting to see how it evolves.
But I just think everything's shifting in 2025, that people aren't as frivolous. They talk about the decadent 80s, but people aren't as frivolous.
We can't afford to be.
Right.
And we don't know what the climate of the economy is going to look like in the next 4 years. Like, people, I think, live
Has to be better than the last 4.
Well, but I think people live with a new sense of fear about not knowing what's to come. And with modern day access to social media like we have it, we're too knowledgeable and too aware of the global climate of everything, that we all live with a fear factor that people 40 years ago just didn't have a grasp on. So if you're not thinking smart, if you're not shopping smart, if you're not selling smart.
I heard my 18-year-old today talk about something that she had, invested in Bitcoin. I was like, wait, what?
Girlfriend's smart. We've been talking about her investments for like the last 8 months. So if you're not with it, you're in trouble.
And what did we hear 3 years ago? Jamie Dimon, the head of Citibank, was saying that, crypto, NFTs, things like that we will have no alternative form of money.
And Bitcoin just hit an all-time high of $109,000 a coin?
Yeah, and it had a little bit of a dip today. I think it's down to like 90. It dropped like 20 grand in a day. And
They say it might be heading to like high 70s before it goes back
that's
up.
like the oil business. That's like anything else that's a commodity.
Well, the thing about Bitcoin that people need to realize is there's so much corruption in banking, in government, in so many entities, in so many countries that aren't ours, where we have really no grasp on what's really happening. And Bitcoin gives people the anonymity to secure things that they couldn't before. So if you think, oh, my grandfather says I shouldn't do this, or my aunt or my uncle, you have to look at the global economy and who else in the rest of the world that thinks Bitcoin is a win. Because I promise you, this myopic view of the United States, if you're somebody that's like, oh, it's never going to take hold, you're probably not correct in that viewpoint.
Right.
Just like the people who told you that nobody would ever put their credit card on the internet. I wish you had $1 for every time that person was wrong.
I was telling somebody today, actually, they were giving history of the price of Bitcoin, and I had somebody call me in 2010, and we had a cold for sale. And they said, by chance, you wouldn't happen to take Bitcoin, would you? And I was like, what is it called? And they said, Bitcoin. What I saw, I said, no, I don't, whatever that is. No monopoly money. It'd be worth over $5 billion today.
No, Christy, I did the math. Let's just say if Christy had accepted that Pony Express money in Bitcoin, she would be worth $900 billion today, okay? Like, I can't even actually, like, you had to turn the phone sideways so the calculator could do all the math. It's insane. It's insane.
So it's just, I'm not saying that everybody should be out there being bandits and gamblers and
look, this is by no means
wildcatters.
financial advice at all, but start thinking outside of the box.
I love my bank. I love my banker. But you look at all these alternative ways and you see these, what I would say are kids, and you go and whatnot, and it's like there was a guy on there selling last night, Louis Vuitton scarves. He goes, I love this pattern. If you'd have said he's a professional skateboarder and he's 22, like, what the hell does he know about?
People have had to revolutionize the way that they earn an income.
Right.
And that's exactly what this is.
And I think with e-marketing, e-commerce, and digital marketing, it's going to change the way people go to college.
Right. So, for those of you that have listened or watched this episode, we're going to link in the description box, number one, our link for Whatnot. You can find us under Liss N Kristi Luxury. If you sign up to be a seller on Whatnot, I think you get credit. But if you also sign up to be a purchaser through our link, you'll also get $15 for your first shopping extravaganza. So make sure that you follow that link, you click through, you subscribe, and go check it out. Like, just hang out for a couple hours. I promise you'll score some crazy deals. I am going to have shirts made that says insomnia is expensive, because there's tons of people on there late at night when they can't sleep. But Braden, Claire's friend, he signed up under our link, and I got a thing back that says, oh, I think we got a $5 shopping credit because he made his first purchase. And I was like, oh, Braden's been bitten by the Whatnot bug.
I know. I just, and for anybody else out there that may miss my voice, which I can't imagine they would, I may come back sounding like a cross between Kermit the Frog and Tone Loc.
Well, Christy always makes a joke that she wishes she could sing, and I was like, do you think that this could have like the reverse effect on your vocal cords? Like, do you think you could come out of the surgery sounding like Whitney Houston? So.
Well, remember I asked you, I said, I made a joke about Tone Loc, and you were like, who? And I said, don't you remember Funky Cold Medina?
Yeah.
And he had that crazy voice. Apparently, he had tonsillitis when he was a kid, and it changed his whole...
It made him Tone Loc.
Made him Tone Loc.
So don't hold your breath, but I mean, maybe hold.
The Grammys, I don't know. Now with Jay-Z and Diddy out of the fold and everybody, I don't know, I may have a chance with that rapping career.
So, and again, if there's anything on this show now that you're, like scoping the wares on that you see that you're interested in, it is all, except for Winslow, everything's for sale.
Winslow's for sale.
No, he's not. And it's fun, guys. It's a lot of fun. And so we're not probably going to be able to
But the great thing about it is you can live, when we do a show, you'll be able to hit it YouTube.
We haven't got that completely.
But there's like 6 different platforms that you'll be able to hit it all at the same time.
Right. So we're working on all of that, the integration of all that tomorrow. Again, the learning curve is relatively easy. In comparison to podcasting, I'd say it's easier. But again, I know we were on that 2-episode-a-week schedule. We've had to take kind of a setback because we've got a lot of K9s work to do. We have a lot of whatnot work to do. But you will be able to catch us hopefully on YouTube at least twice a
We're
week.
baking all this bread for our new neighbor, well, old new neighbor, Elon.
Oh yeah, Christy's trying to make friends with Elon Musk. Look, by the time we come back on the show, they might have had coffee together. You
Or
never
maybe
know.
be driving a Cybertruck. You never know.
You never know. But we felt like we'd left everybody hanging for far too long, and so we apologize about that. But we're not going anywhere. We're getting busier.
So we'll see you probably again. I may not. I may be on and just have no voice, but maybe I'll learn to sign.
Please don't. I think it would just end up like this.
But I'll. If not, I'll be talking to you again in a month.
Yep. All right. Well, with that being said, say goodnight, Lucy.
Good night, Lucy.